Hello, welcome back to my channel. Again, this is Jobran. So thank you so much for watching all my videos. So I hope you are all learning from all the videos that I've posted. So today I'll be explaining another lesson in the subject of the readings in Philippine history. Okay, so since I'm talking about history, now I realize it's good to get to know our history. Okay, so today this is my lesson number 4, diba? Lesson number 4 in the subject of readings in Philippine history. Okay, so we will be talking about the evolution of Philippine taxation. Okay, so how did it evolve? Have you questioned why you are paying taxes? Why do I need to pay taxes? So again, this is very natural for us. If you are working, you are paying taxes is natural. So let's try to get to know the history of Philippine taxation. Okay, so the evolution of Philippine taxation. So in today's world, taxation is a reality that all citizens must contend with for the primary reason that government raise revenue from the people they govern to be able to function fully. Again, we are paying taxes because we need to do it to help our country, progress, to become a better country. So, in exchange for the taxes that people pay, the government promises to improve the citizens' lives through good governance, right? So, we are paying taxes because we want to improve our country. We are paying this one because we want to have a better life. So, taxation as a government mechanism to raise funds, that is correct. That is their own way to raise funds, developed and evolved through time. And in the context of the Philippines, we must understand that it came with our colonial experience. Yeah. Taxation before and up today, we are still paying taxes. So it came with our colonial experience. So let's try to get to know the taxation in Spanish Philippines. Okay, so while the Philippines may have had an abundance of natural resources prior to the arrival of the Spaniards, yes, that is true. Our ancestors mostly live in subsistence economies. And during that time, we are still paying taxes like providing labor services as part of paying taxes, paying tribute or taxes, paying our obligations such as paying tribute. So that's part of our taxes during the arrival of Spaniards. So the arrival of the Spaniards altered this subsistence system because they imposed the payment of tributes from the Filipinos, familiar to what had been practiced in all colonies in America. So during the arrival of the Spaniards, they try to impose payment of tributes from the Filipinos. So they are asking tributes from us. So the purpose for this tribute is to generate resources to finance the maintenance of the island, such as salaries of government officials and expenses of the clergy. So they are forcing us to pay taxes because they are also need that money to finance the maintenance of the islands or the salaries of the government, and to also have some funds to support the programs or the clergy. So the difficulty faced by the Spaniards in revenue collection through the tribute was that the dispersed nature of the settlement, so which they solved by introducing the system of reduction by creating pueblos, so where Filipinos were gathered and awarded plot of land to till. So later on, the settlements will be handled by encomenderos who receive rewards from the Spanish crown for their services. Again, so they are having, during the time Spaniards are having a hard time to collect money from us. So they created a system which is called the reduction of creating pueblos, or the barangay system, no, where Filipinos are gathered there to pay their own taxes, and so that it's easy for the Spaniards to collect funds for the implementation of the program or the maintenance of the island. So exempted from payment of tributes so there are people who are exempted to pay tributes. These are the alcaldes, gobernadors, kabizadi barangay, the soldiers, the members of the civil guards, government officials, and vagrants. So they are exempted from paying tributes. So the Filipinos who were once satisfied with agricultural production from subsistence had to increase production to meet the demands of payment, and a more intensive agricultural system had to be introduced. So this financed the conquest of the Philippines. So again, because of the demand of the Spaniards to pay taxes, tributes. So the Filipinos were also pressured to acquire more agricultural production so that they can pay more tributes to the Spaniards, to the Spaniard people. So toward the end of the 16th century, the Manila-Acapulco trade was established through the galleons. So a way by which the Spaniards could make sure that European presence would be sustained. So once a year, the galleon would be loaded up with merchandise from Asia and sent to New Spain and back. So this improved the economy of the Philippines and reinforced the control of the Spaniards over the country. So tax collection was still very poor, and subsidy from the Spain would be needed to the situado real delivered from the Mexican treasury to the Philippines to the galleon. So this subsidy stopped as Mexico became independent in 1820. Again, toward the end of the 16th century, so the Spaniards are planning to acquire more taxes to have more funds. So they established a galleon. So Spaniards could make sure that European presence would be sustained. So once a year, the galleon, they loaded with some merchandise and from Asia, and this improved, because of this galleon, this improved the economy of the Philippines and reinforced the control of the Spaniards all over the country. But still, despite of this, tax collection was still very poor during this time. So in 1884, the payment of tribute was put to a stop and was replaced by a pool tax collected through a certificate of identification called the cedula personal. So this kind of tribute during the Spanish time, this kind of tribute was put to a stop, and it replaced by a certificate of identification, or called the cedula personal. So as of today, we are still using the cedula. Right? I'm paying taxes. They're asking for cedula. I go to the municipality and then I pay that. So depends on how much I earn. So I need to pay to get my cedula. That's a certificate of identification. So this is required from every resident and must be carried while traveling. Yes, that is correct. Until now, we are using that. Unlike the tribute, the payment of cedulas is by person, not by family. Correct? So I'm paying my own cedula by person, not by family. So payment of the cedula is progressive, and according to income categories, this system, however, was a heavy burden for the peasant and was easy for the wealthy. Okay, so if you are poor, it's hard for you to pay your cedula. If you are rich, it's easy for you to have, because you are earning. But because of this, revenue collection greatly increased. So because of the cedula, because of the system, the revenue collection increased and became the main source of government income. Because everybody are paying. Everybody are paying this one to get their own cedula. It's individual paying. So it became the main source of government income. So the Chinese in the Philippines were also made to pay their discriminatory cedula, which was bigger than what the Filipinos paid. Okay, so paying our cedula is this has been a main source of government income. So the Chinese in the Philippines, so if you are living here in the Philippines, you also made to pay their discriminatory cedula, which was bigger than what the Filipinos paid, which is good, because the government is earning money for this because we are paying. So there were two direct taxes were added in 1878 and imposed on urban incomes. So urbana is a tax on the annual rental value of an urban real estate, and industria is a tax on salaries, dividends, and profits. So there are two direct taxes imposed on urban incomes. For example, in our place. So urban Urbana is a tax on the annual rental value of an urban real estate. So if you are renting, so you have to pay the urbana. If you are renting during the Spanish time, if you are renting, need to pay the annual rental value of an urban real estate that you are renting. And the industria is a tax on salaries, dividends, and profit. So if you are working, so you need to pay the industria. This is a tax on our salary. So if you are earning higher salary, so therefore it is computed to you, it's expected that you will pay bigger tax because you have bigger salary. So these taxes were universal and affected all kinds of economic activity except agriculture, which was exempt to encourage growth. Okay, so during the Spaniards' time, there is no exemption. Everybody should pay this one. But except agriculture, if you are an agriculturist, you were exempted to pay during this time because they are encouraging our agricultural sector to grow. So this we also have the indirect taxes. So indirect taxes such as customs duties were imposed on exports and imports to further raise revenue. So if you are exporting products and then importing, so you are also made to pay taxes. This is called the indirect taxes. So if you are a businessman, you are exporting your products, you have to pay taxes, so that the government will also earn money from that, especially during the 19th century. So when economic growth increased exponentially, so because of this system, the indirect taxes, the economic growth increased exponentially. So there were no excise taxes collected by the Spaniards throughout the years of colonialism. So by the time they are still colonizing the Philippines, there are no excise taxes implemented. There's only two, the direct taxes and the indirect taxes. Forced labor was a character of Spanish colonial taxation in the Philippines and was required from the Filipinos. So it proved useful in defending the territory of the colony and augmenting the labor required by wood cutting and shipbuilding, especially during the time of galleon trade. Again, during the time of the taxation in Spanish Philippines, Spaniards really wanted to help our economy, especially in taxation. That's why they have the cedula, the certificate of identification. They are raising revenue on direct taxes, indirect taxes. We cannot also neglect the time that Filipinos are also doing forced labor during that time. So polo system, through the polo system, male Filipinos were obliged to serve, a burden that resulted in an increase in death rate and flight to the mountain. So there's also a positive. When the Spaniards colonized the country, there's a positive and a negative effect. The positive is they're trying to help us in growing our economy, but the negative is they're also manipulating, or the polo system resulted in a lot of Filipinos who are dying and escaping to the mountains, which led to a decrease in population in the 17th century. This changed later on as polos and servicios became lighter and was organized at the municipal level. So taxation in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period was characterized by the heavy burden placed on the Filipinos and the corruption of the principals or the former datus and local elite who were co-opted by the Spaniards to subjugate and control the natives on their behalf. The principals who were given positions such as cabezas de barangay or alcaldes in the local government were able to enrich themselves by pocketing tributes and orfalas, while the peasants were left to be abused. Taxation appeared progressive, but the disparity between the less taxed principal and the heavily taxed peasant made the rich richer and the poor poorer. So again, during the taxation, during the colonization of Spaniards, especially in the taxation in the Philippines, it put a heavy burden to Filipinos. But then again, they experienced a lot of manipulation. They experienced a lot of forced labor during that time, an increase in death rate, and a lot of Filipinos are flying to the mountains trying to escape. That's why taxation appeared progressive, but the disparity between the less tax principals and the heavily taxed peasant. Those who are rich are exempted from paying the tax, but those who are poor are required to pay taxes. Made the idea of the rich becomes richer and the poor becomes poorer. Thank you so much for watching all my videos. I hope you are learning from the video. This is our lesson 4. So I will continue this one because this is a very long discussion. So this is just a video about taxation in the Philippines under Spain. And hopefully you are learning from this. Thank you so much. This is just for educational purposes. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again for my next video blog. Thank you and God bless you.